We're here in Florence talking about the timeless values of scouting. Stay tuned to Carolina People coming up next. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at the Service Center for the PD Area Council of the Boy Scouts here in Florence. We're focused on the center and many of the activities of the council, and we're visiting with one of its executive board members, Reverend Terry Alexander. Good morning.
Good morning.
Reverend Alexander, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thanks for having us here with you this morning.
Incredible opportunity to highlight so many of the board members and so many of the activities of the council. The PD Area Council serves such a large area, and to think about trying to bring all those areas together in one council is a heck of a big deal. But wanted to highlight some of the board members this week and so many of the activities going on within the council. Couldn't think of a better person to kick off Tuesday than Terry Alexander. So thanks so much for coming in.
You're so kind.
Well, it's early in the morning, so we can do that. Can we talk real quick about yourself, Reverend Alexander? Are you originally from the area?
Yeah, this is my home, Florence. I was born and raised right here in Florence, grew up here in Florence. I went to school in North Carolina for a couple of years and came back and completed my college education out at Francis Marion University and worked around the community for several years. And this is home for me.
I failed to mention when I was introducing you that aside from being the associate pastor at Trinity Baptist Church here, you're also a county councilman.
Yes, I'm going into my fourth term, so I'm working I'm working on my 13th year.
Son of a
I
gun.
cringe when I think about that too as well.
Yeah, Terry, that's a big deal. What originally got you into a public service?
Well, as a matter of fact, it started out at Francis Marion. Started out working in the political parties out at Francis Marion. I was a charter member of the NAACP out at Francis Marion, and from there it just kept escalating and getting involved in local politics and local elections, and worked for Congressman Talon for about 4.5 years. You know, things just kept escalating, and then I wanted to do something relative to public service. And that's when I took up the challenge to run for an elected office.
And you said you worked with Congressman Talon for
about 4.5 years.
Was that in Washington or down here?
Down here. Okay. I'm not a bright light type of fella.
Oh my God.
As goes on in D.C., so I wanted to keep it at the local level. And this is basically where politics began and politics ends on the local level, really.
That's a great point. You know, a lot of folks probably don't understand that. When you say that, I mean, obviously all the constituents are here. They have to send that representative either to Columbia or up to Washington.
Yeah, the folks who elect these individuals live in the area. They don't live in Washington. They don't live in Columbia. They live locally.
That's a great point. What's that like for you communicating with Congressman Talon to keep him updated, to let him know what was happening back in the community?
Well, it was interesting. First of all, you met a lot of good people along the way, you know, and you met a lot of folks that could help people. And I often see public service, I often see elected office as a means of helping those who cannot really help themselves. And so I enjoy that aspect of the political process, in that I could pick up the phone and call the congressman and say, I need you to do A, B, C, D for Sam or for Miss Sue. And that's a warming feeling, knowing that you can help those who really are not in a position to help themselves, or give them some direction as to how they can get help.
Absolutely. Getting a letter from Washington, from that congressperson or senator, or even from Columbia oftentimes, knowing that you're a conduit for them. And I think you travel to Columbia on a pretty regular basis. Yeah,
presently, in my present job, I travel to Columbia. I do some consulting work for the Employment Security Commission, whereas I provide career and occupation information to schools throughout the state. I work in about 15 counties, and I go in and talk to them and help them to incorporate our services into their classroom settings when it deals with occupations and careers and what they need to do in order to prepare themselves for jobs and for the workplace once they leave school and colleges.
And this is happening in high schools and in colleges?
It's happening in high schools, colleges, middle schools, and we are starting now in elementary schools to expose kids to various careers and occupations and allow them to see what's happening out there and help them to see the relationship between what they're being taught at every level of school and how it applies to the world of work. And there is a direct correlation there, basically.
We talk about being an educational consultant, being a pastor, associate pastor, excuse me, that's exactly right. We want to talk about that for a second, but being an associate pastor and also serving your community and going into your fourth term as a county councilman here in Florence. How the heck do you have that time?
Well, it's called time management.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're sincere about it, you'll make time. We'll be surprised at the amount of time that we have just sitting around doing absolutely nothing. If we're serious about it, when we go home in the evening and you sit there with either the remote control or whatever you're doing, that's a lot of time. You know, we have from 6:30 to 7 o'clock to 11:30 to 12 o'clock or whatever before we hit the sack, basically. So we have a lot of time on our hand. It's just a matter of us managing that time better.
That may not have been a habit that was instilled while you were in the Boy Scouts. There are a lot of other habits that were instilled, and overall, much of that Boy Scout experience in an early age may have helped you.
Well, one thing about the Boy Scouts, and as I was saying earlier to some other individuals, that it builds character. You know, I was a member of the Boy Scout. I was a member of the Cub Scout. At my present church that I'm associate pastor at, I came through that Boy Scout troop, Troop 104, as a matter of fact. We still have our number, and it helps builds character when you think about, you know, the 12 laws: trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. Those are some of the mottos and some of the words that are instilled in scouting. And when you think about those words, you think about character and character building, and it has played a major role in my life.
Do you have any family?
Yeah, I have a son, and I have a daughter, and I have a son-in-law, and I have a granddaughter.
You're not old enough to have a son-in-law.
I'm not old enough, right? I really know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I have a son-in-law and a granddaughter about 6 months old.
That is amazing. That is amazing. What's that been like for you, Terry, having grown up with some experiences in scouting, having grown up there in Troop 104, and now is your son in
He's in Troop 104.
Is that right?
Yeah, and it's been quite rewarding, and he's not quite as sincere about it as I was, because of the fact when I was coming through the Scouts, that was basically one of the primary things that we had to do in the community. However, now kids have so many other attractions or distractions, if you will, and scouting is not an ideal thing for a lot of our kids there, basically.
That's why it's so good having people like you on the executive board for the PD Area Council. You've got children. You've got somebody who's in scouting right now in Troop 104, the same troop you came through.
Right.
You know, so many of the board members, I myself, not having had a scout experience, trying to gauge what it's like for children these days, some of the distractions they're going through. It must be really enlightening, and it is enlightening to the board members, but it must be enlightening for you to hear him talk about all the things that would keep him out of an active life in scouting.
Yes, and that's the challenge, I think, that we have, and the challenge is to bring more kids into the process and to get adults to assist in that process. Right now, there's a little perception out there when you talk about Boy Scouting and the minority community, particularly in the black community. They don't see the importance of it because of so many other distractions. And that's a challenge, I think, that we're going to take on, and that I'm going to take on, in terms of kind of downplaying that perception and show our community the importance of Boy Scouting and what it means to be a part of the Boy Scout. And that's a challenge I had to deal with my son. But because I'm the parent, I didn't have to do too much to tell him to do it, you know. But I think he's learning from it. You know, when you go out there and learn how to tie knots, you know, when you're putting up a camp, when you're laughing with your friends, when you're out there cooking on the outdoor, that's exciting. And a lot of kids do not have that opportunity to do so. And it's fun. You know, it's a lot and lots of fun. I'm interested in trying to put up a tent, you know, in these days of time. And that's pretty exciting, I think.
That is. So you have been out to Camp Coker with your son or with others?
I haven't been out to Camp Coker, but I've been to camps. I learned I learned how to swim in the Boy Scout in the lake in Horry County. That's where I learned how to swim. That's the only place we had to swim was in there. But I haven't had the opportunity to go out and work with my son at Camp Coker. But I think that our troop is preparing that, and I think they've been out there once or twice, but I haven't had the opportunity to go. And I look forward to that, going out to Camp Coker, because I did not have that opportunity to utilize those facilities when I was coming through the Boy Scouts and the Cub Scouts. So it's kind of exciting now knowing that I can take my son out there and enjoy the amenities, and there are a bunch of them out there. I was really impressed when I went out there for the
Camp
first time.
Coker is amazing.
It's
yes.
unreal.
It really
The only
is.
thing is that they have air conditioning and fans. We didn't have air conditioners and fans when we were coming through. You know, you just had the outdoors, you know.
That's right. Except at the tents, there's no fans.
No fans, man.
So there's probably not too many fans in those tent areas.
Yeah, you're probably right in those 10 areas.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's so the opportunity may arise now. When your son talks about, I know I didn't get you on to talk about you and your son talking about scouting, but when he talks about some of the scouting, this is the practical impression for a lot of viewers that may not know a lot about scouting. Some of the benefits that, I mean, does he ever talk about some of the benefits that he's derived from scouting?
I think he enjoys working. First of all, he likes working with his hands.
Mm-hmm.
So he enjoys kind of building things and tying these knots and just like the outdoors. You know, nowadays our kids are more concerned and confined to those video games and those video computers, so they don't have the ability to be outdoors and enjoy the fresh air and you know, and just the cooking. He enjoys that. He enjoys working with his hands. He enjoys building and constructing things. So he's pretty excited about that. You know.
You talked about some of the programs that you're hopeful to launch or expand over the coming months and coming years in your service on the executive board, as well as serving the community in your associate pastor role there at Trinity Baptist. But when you think about some of the communities you'll be serving, obviously you travel over a heck of a lot of area in your position as a consultant. Are you able to gauge some of the communities that have some of the severe needs for scouting in those areas while you're doing the educational?
Well, you know, since my involvement in the Boy Scouts some months ago, I began to start noticing, you know, and ask questions when I visit these schools. You know, I have a scout troop here at the school, and lots of time they're saying no. You know, and it is interesting because a lot of the service area that scouting is, that the PD area scouts are serving, is some of the same counties that I actually work in. So I'm going to have a dual capacity when I get out there doing my work, and at the same time trying to encourage, particularly our rural schools, our elementary schools and middle schools, to try and you know, and start a scouting troop out there, a scout council out there in that area. So, and it is a dying need out there. It's a dire need out there, and we're going to work particularly in the black community to try and increase the number of young folks that we have in scouting. But that is not the challenge, I don't believe. I think the challenge for us is going to be to have adults to come out and work with our kids. The kids are out there, and lots of them are wanting something to do. It just doesn't matter now having adults or responsible individuals to come and work with these kids at a certain point in time, and that takes a serious commitment on the behalf of those individuals. And I think that's going to be our challenge, getting more adult folks to work with them.
A man who's already made a serious commitment to giving back to his community in a role not only as an educational consultant, but as an associate pastor at Trinity Baptist Church and a county councilman just going into his fourth term. Reverend Terry Alexander, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you for being here with us. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. How exciting. Stay tuned to more Carolina People coming up next. Good morning. Welcome back to Carolina People. This morning we're in Florence at the Service Center for the PD Area Council of the Boy Scouts. We're focused on many of the council's current activities, and we're visiting with one of its new board members, Dr. Harrell Docherty, a rheumatologist here in Florence. Good morning, Harrell. Thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Morning. Thank you.
Hope you don't mind if I call you Harrell.
No.
I'm sure you get
Perfectly
used to
fine.
hearing Dr. Docherty all the time. So
Still not quite used to that.
I'm sure. You're a rheumatologist here in Florence.
Yes, sir.
What exactly is a rheumatologist, Harold?
I specialize mostly in treating arthritis and its wear and tear of the joints, or other conditions such as rheumatoid arthritis. It's can be pretty damaging to individuals. And then there's a few strange off-the-wall kind of things I see. So,
Harrell, are you originally from the area?
for the most part, I grew up in Florence. My parents are from Sumter area, and the rest of my family basically lives here. So,
Did you attend school in the Florence area?
yes, sir. Went to high school here. Went to Francis Marion College, and then moved off to MUSC down in Charleston. And after that, went out to Tennessee, and I've been out there for the past 5 years, I guess.
What do you think brought you back to Florence?
Big thing is actually family. My wife's family, my family are all from this area. Growing up here, I initially wasn't really sure I wanted to be in Florence, but actually being away from it, I found out I really missed it, and it's a good place to be. So I was eager to come back.
Are you involved in practice with anyone else?
Yeah, actually, I'm working with my father. He's an internist here in town, and sort of fulfilling the family dream. I'm working with him, doing my part on the other side of the building.
That's exciting. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of dads probably want their sons or daughters to get into similar professions.
Sort of the family dream. Didn't quite have the family grocery store to go work in or something like that with him, but this works pretty good.
That's exciting. Were you involved in scouting within the PD Area Council?
Yes, sir. I joined the Boy Scouts in 1978 and joined a local troop here in town, 475, which is sponsored by Central United Methodist Church. And basically grew up in that troop. Earned my Eagle Scout in 1985. And right now I'm actually working back again in the same troop that I grew up in. For the past year, I've been the Scoutmaster for the troop. And it's been quite fun.
Tell the viewers a little bit about what it means to be a Scoutmaster. This is Troop 475 in Florence. What does that mean to be a Scoutmaster?
Scoutmaster is is basically a volunteer position, and it's someone that is helping these boys go about learning the skills of being a scout. I'm there to offer leadership. I'm there to provide an opportunity for these young guys to go out and do different experiences, and then basically help also develop their leadership capabilities to help them with learning to be good citizens, and basically following the ideals of scouting and following the oath and the scout law and such as that.
Harrell, are you doing this all from memory, from your scouting experience? Are there books or training manuals to follow? I mean, there are a lot of viewers who probably don't have familiarity with Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts or scouting in general.
There's a book out there for it. There's been several actually. The main book is our Scout Handbook, and it basically runs through the whole ideals of scouting. And there's multiple Scoutmaster handbooks out there, but most of it is sort of you learn as you go along. And there's many leaders out there who have never been in Boy Scouts, and they get involved because their children, their son's involved or something like that. And you sort of learn as you go along, but if you go through the Scout Handbook, you see what's expected, and it does pretty good. It's a toughie. But,
that's exciting, and to be a new board member, to bring that experience as a Scoutmaster. So many of the board members oftentimes neither had Boy Scout experience nor have been active as a Scoutmaster for a long time, if ever. The ability for you to come on and bring that practical experience of what some of the boys, how many boys would be in your Scout troop, for instance?
Right now, my troop has about, I believe we've got 24 boys right now in the troop.
Wow.
The majority of mine are brand new Scouts, so actually when I started being Scoutmaster, there was a council-wide roundup, and the majority of the boys are brand new to scouting and have never had any experience with it or exposure. And only a few of my older Scouts, I think I've got about 3 or 4 older Scouts that were there to help offer their experiences as they've grown up through the troop.
Did you attend Camp Coker as a Scout, Harrell?
Yeah, yes I did. I think the first year I went to Camp Coker was in 1979, and basically went every summer, and eventually actually became the program director out there. So I was in charge of running the staff and coming up with the program that the scouts, when they came to camp, would be involved in.
What was that like, having attended as a scout and then later coming back as attending in a different capacity and then becoming program director? That's a big deal.
That was a real big deal for me, because I figured if I ever came back, usually you start off teaching one specific area, and so it was a big change, and plus it was a completely different view of the camp, seeing it more from the opposite side of how to run it. Had to stamp out little fires when little fires would arise, and then trying to tailor things to what the boys needed. And that's again a good thing of having been there already, is or have a good idea of what the scouts need, both as the young brand new scouts that are there versus the older scouts, which maybe have already earned several of the merit badges that are offered at camp.
Right.
And so you come up with ideas of things to keep them more interested in it. But yeah, it was a big experience and a big difference, I thought.
Yeah.
So, to see it sort of from a different view.
What do you all do when you get together?
Some troops are variable. My troop meets actually every week, except on major holidays are the only time we take a break of not being there. Most of the troop meetings are divided up into a few things. The whole goal of running a scout meeting and going on these camping trips is to have the boys basically take responsibility and eventually take over the program themselves, so that they're deciding what we're learning each week and things. But part of the meeting is at learning new skills, whether it's learning knots, learning cooking skills, learning proper camping skills, working on citizenship badges, different things of that nature. And then part of it is also incorporating that into games. And it's games where they then use the skills that they've just learned, so that it sort of reinforces them a little more. And then during the meetings, we also supply opportunities for the boys to work on things that they want to work on themselves. And so they'll get together as patrols, and a patrol will decide, gosh, a couple of our guys are deficient on this skill, let's work on this. And then basically planning what they're going to do next. And so the past couple of meetings, our troop is getting ready to go on a camping trip. And so the boys have been getting together, deciding what menus they want to cook, or what menus they'd like to have, where they want to go, what they want to do when they get to where we're going. And so again, it's they sort of run the show, and I'm just there as a helper.
Right.
So,
Harrell, this is so exciting. I can see why Jim Head was so excited to bring you on the board. He probably ought to let you take over one of the next meetings. Some of these practical experiences are probably things a lot of the board members need.
I think it offers a good bit so that where you can draw back on it. And I sort of say that once a person's been a scout, you're always a scout forever. And you may be a little rusty on skills of tying some of the fancy knots and things, but it all comes right back. And the board members, understanding a little bit about what the scouts are doing, some of the ideals, understanding even the parts of the scout oath and the law, and basically the ideals of it, you can better incorporate it into coming up with a good program for them. And if we come up with a really good program, I think the boys will eat it all up. That's the best part of it.
Camp Coker is kind of a way to tie in much of what y'all are doing on a weekly basis. Make it real outside of a location that you meet on a weekly basis. How does Camp Coker bring it all together?
At Camp Coker, it's actually several fun things. It's you have several troops getting together all at the same time. Camp is usually a week-long thing. Our camp has been operating since 1928, I believe. There's camps that are much older than ours, and long-term summer camp has been a big experience for scouts over the years. The big thing with camp, again, you're getting all these boys together, so they're seeing that other fellows from areas other than their own city are learning some of the same skills. It's an opportunity to put those skills to the test against other boys. It's also a place where they get together and they're able to hone down a lot of the skills that they're learning. It's also an opportunity to earn merit badges, which are basically skill awards or what's a good definition of a merit badge? Basically, awards that show that a boy is able to do certain skills, almost like a report card for English, showing that you've got the skills to do this. And so there's a lot of merit badges that are offered at camp that may be very difficult to get for a person just living in the city. And so getting to camp allows that opportunity. It's also a good opportunity for a lot of the inner city boys that we've got that really don't go far into the country or do much outside of their own backyard or their neighborhood, to give them a chance to be out in the woods, on a lake, fishing, boating, doing shooting sports, and all these other opportunities. So quite a bit, and a lot of fellowship. There's a lot of friendships earned at camp. Some of my best friends I've met at camp. I've met on camping trips going to other states, and for these same type of activities.
We're visiting with Scoutmaster of Troop 475, a new executive board member on the PD Area Council of the Boy Scouts, Dr. Harrell Docherty, who brings a practical experience to the council. Harrell, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Yeah, thank you.
Stay tuned to more Carolina People coming up next. We want to thank Jim Head and all the staff and volunteers of the PD Area Council of the Boy Scouts for making this week of Carolina People such a great success.